Okay, today we're going to be making a scanning system. Not only is it going to be a kind of a cool effect, it will also have a bit of functionality and room to improve it. So see, it's scanning the wall, it's yellow, and then if I stand here and let it come back, when it hits me, it turns red, shines a light on me. You could even make that light track the player if you wanted to, and you do that in the same way you would make like a turret track someone. I might link a turret tutorial. The nice thing is you can do this in Niagara, but we're not actually going to do it in Niagara. This was kind of inspired by this effect here. Someone wanted, like, hey, how do you make a little effect like this down here where the beam fires down and kind of scans an object? And you notice this one like interacts with the fog and stuff. I'll link this asset pack here, but we're not actually going to do it like that. Ours is just much simpler than all of that. Ours is actually just a plane. More accurately, it is a section of like a cylinder top, basically. It's a quarter of a cylinder top, and it's UV'd like this. There's a few ways to do it, so notice like this one's a bit lower resolution. You can see the pixels, and that's because this one, I actually did it from the center, but then I realized if I just UV things a bit better, so let me pull up this image here. It's kind of hard to see, but notice how this all goes from the center, and I can just spin it and rotate the lasers around that point, and that will let you get the laser effect. I'll show you how I made this, but I'll also have these assets in my Discord under the assets, which anyone can access. If that link is broken in the description, let me know and I'll fix it, but it shouldn't be broken. I'm going to jump into GIMP really quick, since the way you make that is fairly simple. There's just a few things to keep in mind. So open recent, high res. I made this 2048 since the other one was low. And you basically just make one line. You have to make it twice as long as the image, because when you rotate it down, you want it to make it all the way to the edge, and obviously things that are horizontal are longer than or things that are diagonal are going to be longer than the horizontal. And then to make your life easier, it's nice to make that the center as well. So add the line, and this line is just 2 pixels tall, and then it's 1 pixel offset. So then what you do is you just like duplicate layer, and then you click the rotate, and then I rotated it every 10 degrees, so like this, and that's what you did, or what I did to make this image. And then I also put everything into a material group, a layer group, and then I added a mask to it to make, so like if I delete the layer mask, it gets like super dark, since that's where all the lines converge. So I added a little bit of a mask to fade that out, and then a little bit of a mask to fade it at the ends here. Other than that, that's how I got this texture. And then again, this is just the top of a cylinder with its pivot at the center. And then the one other adjustment I added a solidify to make the collision. You don't need to do that if you don't want the collision, but I export those as 2 separate assets. Okay, so we can close this. We can close this. I'm actually going to save, or no, I don't need to save this. Okay, and the heart of it is this material. The material's actually fairly simple. The few key parts is it's translucent, it's unlit, it's 2-sided. We're using the depth fade node, and we're using the rotator. These are the 2 main things. Because of how I set up the texture and how I set up my UVs, my rotation will be at 0, 0. You could increase the speed if you wanted to as well. And Then I'm just kind of blending these together, and I have some parameters I can control with the Keller. The other thing here, and we're going to go over all this, I'm just reviewing it, is you want to set this texture to mirror when you import it. And then I generated a collider here. Okay. And then to make this one sure it still collides, I just made a blank material. And this is the old scan effect that goes from the center. This one here. And if this, to make it intersect, I literally just have one plane rotated 180. So it's like that, you know. It will stick through stuff. There's probably a way to mask this off. So that's something to keep in mind. Like if you have a bunch of tight corridors, it's not a very smart system in terms of like knowing when to stop. So that will be a design constraint. I think there's probably a way to mask that off, but I don't know what that is yet. And then a final distinction in the scanner here. This is just kind of lerping up and down to make it the scan system. You can do it as both an rinterp constant, and I'll show you the other one, and just an rinterp too. One looks a bit more natural and one looks a bit more mechanical. Both are I kind of like the natural one. See where it kind of slows down and then quickly jumps back. And then this is the constant. You notice it just like goes very consistently even when it reaches the end. But this is totally a preference thing. Both work totally fine. The one I'm going to be setting up, I'm going to do as a constant. If you do use the non-constant one, keep in mind you may need a larger variable here when you're comparing these rotators. You'll need a larger kind of threshold tolerance, error tolerance, where if you use the constant, you almost need 0 error tolerance, since the constants will consistently get to the point they're trying to get to, where the non-constant rotators are going to slowly get to there, and they may never get to there in a reasonable amount of time. Okay. And then this is just the depth. The depth fade is a system that normally gets used on particles, but we are going to use it for us. So this is the project. We're going to set it up, the system from scratch. I'm going to go ahead and pull over this system so I have it as reference. The first part, we are just going to drag in our little scanning triangle. So it's going to be this guy. We don't need to generate collision. It even brought in that texture, since I had that texture assigned to it in Blender. But if not, you just bring in the texture. Okay, and this is the collision. So for the collision, we are going to, let's show simple collision. Auto convex. Let's just crank this up. We want it to be somewhat accurate, so this will be fine. And then let's just literally make we'll call it matte blank. The reason I'm using a matte blank is because, okay, unlit. And then we'll just set this to opacity 0. Is because sometimes when you turn off the visibility, that also jacks with what register, if the collision registers or not. Okay, there's the collision. Let's make the scanning. I'm just going to kind of drag this out into my scene, just as a preview. And I want it intersecting something, since that's kind of a critical element of what we're trying to test. So I'm actually just going to matte Since this is already applied, I might as well use this one. So the settings we're going to need, it's going to be surface, translucent, unlit, and two-sided, just like that. This texture, we will need the alpha from. Let's grab this texture though. We need to make some edits here. When you scroll down, advanced right here, under the texture advanced, we want this to be mirror instead of clamp. I can show you what that does actually. That might be here. Let's throw this in here just so we can see something. Okay, see, there's our lines. It's black on black, so it's hard to see. But I'm going to hold down V, click that. This will be our color. And let's just give it a nice green color. I'm going to give it a power of 12, like this. Apply. There we go. And then let's add in, I'm just grabbing my other one for reference. We do texture coordinates, and then we do a rotator. And then this will be set to 0, 0. I'm okay with a speed of 0.25. This will just go into here. And let's just see what that looks like. Okay, now let me actually readjust this back to what it normally is. So it's normally on warp or wrap, and see it does this. So if you're getting this weird thing, that's because it's like, this is it tiling, but we don't actually want it to tile, we want it to mirror. So that's why that's important. See how that fixes that. Okay. This other part is not, I might actually ignore it. You can, here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just throw it into the material and then I'm going to remove it. You can kind of affect the tightness with a power component. So notice, I'm going to drag this here. If you're trying to affect how thick the laser is, so that's a little thinner, and if you want it even thinner, or that's like quite jagged, granted you can like see the pixels, which honestly it's kind of a cool effect if you want something like that. But the more power, that's how tight you make the laser. I'm going to put mine at about 2. I actually like that. It's quite thin. And the cool thing here is you can also make the lasers closer together by literally just scaling it. Like this. But let's add the fade effect. So this is using a system called depth fade. And we want to reverse it, so 1 minus, and then we use a power here as well. And this one, I guess we could make a, yeah, let's go ahead and right click, promote to parameter, and then we'll be depth fade strength. I don't think it's strength, because if we make this higher, depth fade, we can call this depth mask tightness. That's actually what this is. And I'll do the same thing. We're pull over. Okay, we don't need this. Don't need this. Don't need this. Don't need these. Okay. Oh, let's actually hook up the depth fade. So I'll do a lerp. I'll do this laser strength. So something like 3. Okay, and then this can go into the alpha. This can go into the opacity. There we go. Okay, let's look at this in the scene. See, we got that nice line there. I'm just going to adjust this. Yeah, so this increases the laser strength relative to the depth fade. So because the lasers are using a separate mask, like let's say you wanted them to be kind of the same, you could like make it a bit offset. Though actually, because if we hooked up the laser strength, the other option is we could hook it up right here, right? But this would affect it for both of them. Right. So this is kind of preferences. See, your line on the ground would be different as well. Honestly, the better way I want to do this actually though is I actually don't want to make this the laser strength. I want to make this the depth. Depth blend brightness. And then we can make it something like 0.6. Let's see what this is. We can tune this down a little bit. 0.1 is pretty good, I think. And then we can make the lasers brighter, just in general, to like 32, maybe. 128. Yeah, that's fine. 32 is fine. Okay. So this is our laser system. It's a rather nice system. You can already see it kind of scan stuff. But now we want to put it into that actor where it can scan stuff. So this is our material. Pretty simple, actually. You could add some, so like let me go back to here. If you wanted to, you could add some of those like horizontal lasers. Like you notice, this is kind of low res, but you can see there's some like grid patterns in there. There's like a bit of smoke stuff on where it impacts, all that you could kind of add. And of course you could do this in Niagara as well if you wanted to make it more complex. But we're just doing the simple version. Okay, let's make our actor. Let's Control-Shift-Save in case this crashes. Blueprint, actor, scanner, BP. Okay, so we need our mesh. So we're gonna grab just the normal mesh, this one, and we're gonna put it in there. And then scanner. Collision. We're just going to do it in one direction first, and then we'll duplicate it. Scanner, triangle, up. Scanner, triangle, up. collision. Okay. Now it's very important. This one shouldn't have any collision, right? No collision, none. No overlap events. But this one, it shouldn't be block all, should be overlap all. And the player shouldn't be able to step on it. Okay. And this one, we can reset that. This should just be blank. Matte blank. There we go. And then we are going to drag this into the scene. So let's just kind of put it on this outpost right here. You notice our scanning beam is super, super small. So we're just going to scale this up like 22. Much better. I want it to be a little bit tighter. So you can adjust that, of course. So that's going to be on the Y direction, just based on how our mesh is set up. So there we go. It's a bit tighter, so it can scan. I might move both of these, actually. Since I think I want it, like, kind of scanning this corner, that looks a bit more interesting. That way it can overlap with like the boxes and stuff as it scans. We can make it a bit less tight. Maybe like 16. Okay, I like that. Now we go into the event graph. We're going to need a few variables here. Let me just pull up. I like to, actually we'll go into the construction script real quick. We need to grab this one, and then we will do make array, since this will need once we make more of these, and then for each, and then set or dynamic, create dynamic material instance, and then this is the one, the matte scan, and then set vertex or vector parameter value, that's just the color, and then we want to make this a parameter laser color. Maybe we'll mix it up and we'll make it like blue. Like that. That's kind of interesting. We'll see what that gives us. We got our blue laser right there. This one's still green, of course. By the way, this is how we made the one that was overlapped. Just like that. That's how we did that. Kind of a cool effect. Okay, back to the blue one. Sorry, getting a bit distracted. So we have this set up how we want. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything in the construction script. We do want to actually, we want to make an array here. So I'm just going to click variable, create a, oh, did I create a variable? Promote to, yes. Oh, not actually this. We want to make this a variable. There we go. And this will be matte laser mats. But we want to make it a array, and then we want to clear this array. at the start, and then we want to do add unique right there. Let me zoom in. I'm going to create a quick sequence here. So these are separate. Okay, just like that. And this will let us, we'll need this when we set up the alarm system. Okay, now in the actual event graph, we need some angles. So I'll do scan up angle 1, and this will be a rotator, and then scan up angle 2. These aren't going to be arrays, these are going to be single, and then scan up angle to match. So we're going to need these for all the things. So the scan up, let's find an angle that we like. So maybe 30, like that. I kind of like that. So let's compile this so we can scan up angle 1. And then angle 2, how far down do we want it to go? Maybe 60? We can look at that. That's pretty good. Go down 60. So this will be minus 30. And then in the event graph, we will need the begin play. The angle to match, if you hold down Alt, you can drag it in like this. We want it to go to the second angle, and we will start it at the first angle. So it starts at 30, and we want it to go down to the second angle. The actual blending of this we will do here. So scan line, set relative rotation, and then we'll do R interp to constant. This we need delta get world delta seconds. I'm gonna make mine kind of slow. Promote to variable. I think about 12 should be about right. Maybe 9. Make it more kind of consistent. Okay, and then we grab the scan line, get the rotation here. Get world rotation. Let me just check on my, okay, we're about at 30 minutes. So that's the current, and then the to match goes here. And then we are going to do a few things when after this. We don't want to check all the time, so we need to kind of have a condition when it checks. So we want to check which angle it has matched, and when it reaches one angle, go back to the other, right? So we can grab this, oh, wrong. We want relative rotation. Since this is all in you technically could do it in world space, but I like doing it in local space. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do equals equals, and we're gonna see, hey, has this matched angle 2 yet. We'll give it a little bit of margin, and we will also check, hey, has this matched angle 1 yet? Because which angle we are going to blend to will be dependent on which angle you just reached. But we don't want it to quickly jump back and forth, so we need a do once here. Or it's like, hey, if this is true, just reset the angle you go to once and then move on. Otherwise you can get some strange behavior. And then keep going until you hit the other angle, basically. So these are going to do once, but we need to reset them. So when it hits this angle down here, reset this one, and when it hits this angle down here, reset this one. And then what we're actually going to do when we reach it is fairly simple. We're just going to set which angle we're trying to get to. So if you reach angle 2, you now want to get to angle 1. And if you reach angle 1, you now want to get to angle 2. Just like that. Fairly straightforward. So let's see if this works. I'm going to start off by just simulating it. It's scanning down, and there you go, scans back up. Scanning. We kind of make it scan really high. I'm actually going to angle 1. I'm going to set this to 0. You know what we can do instead of having to, yeah, that's fine. We could set this in the constructor so it just always defaults to angle 1. Yeah, let's do that, why not? Set relative rotation. And that way we don't actually want it here. We'll do it back here. We can do on complete. That works. And then we can set these, the Keller, the angle 1 and angle 2, and the interp speed. And then notice if we click on the actor, after we compile this, all these settings are here. So let's say we want the angle 1 to be higher or lower. We can reset this. Like let's make it -10, so it starts a little bit lower like that. That way you can set it in the editor. And then it's like, I want it to go a bit lower. Maybe like down 40 degrees like that. That looks pretty good. Okay. So this works. Now we're going to set up all this for the, I'm just going to duplicate it. You could probably make a function out of this, but, and then we need to replace these variables. So let's duplicate this one as well. So instead of up, this is going to be side. The rain is really coming down here. I don't know if you can hear that. Okay, side, and then we need to duplicate all these. And this is going to be side. And then this is going to be side as well. We actually capitalize this. So first we need to replace the actual triangle. Up, up, or side, side, side. These need to get replaced. A little weird thing, by the way, if you click it here, maybe not actually. Yeah, see, if you do this, it creates like a set variable. There's a very specific spot you have to do it on. So that's not okay, but it's like right there, it will replace it. Took me a little bit to figure that out. This one's the 1, this one is 2. And then that's the up one, we want the side one. Okay, this is getting set. This is side, side. Now we just need to give it an actual angle we like. So we pretty much know we're going to want it rotated 90 since it's the horizontal one. I notice it's green again. Let's fix that real quick. So this is where we can just grab this and add it here to our array. That's why we made that an array in the first place. See? So now they're both blue. And then in the construction script here as well, we are going to set the side to angle side 1. And then let's just mess around. We'll give these at least both 90, but we don't actually know what we want. Okay, side angle 1. So I think we mess with this one. So I think maybe 40 to, and we can even use the angle 1 to figure out what we want for angle 2. 40 to minus 30, maybe. So this will be 0. Yeah. So this will be 0. This will be minus 30. And then this will be 0. And this will be 40. Let's look at this. Look at that. Let's deselect it. Looks a bit better that way. Tell me that's not kind of cool. Let me close my... That's pretty cool. Okay, so that's working. Now, let's add in the detection system, which is actually not too bad, since we actually already put the collision in here. So the detection system, we just scroll down on begin overlap, and then just checking my reference, get player pawn, and we just want to check, hey, are these the player? We don't want it to activate for everything, we just want it to activate for the player. Holding down B to make a branch. And then what you make happen here is kind of up to you. I like to grab these mats we set here, and then for each we can set it to technically we can put a do once here actually. Mine I just have it activate once, but obviously this logic you could have it reset after a timer, you can have it alert enemies, you can have it play an alarm, you know, there's a lot of things you could do on this detection. I just want to show that it's possible, right? I'm going to duplicate this Keller here, and I'm going to call this alarm Keller. And let's make, we didn't spell that, alarm. There we go. Let's compile, and what do we want? Nice red, maybe? Almost purplish. It's a pretty Keller. And then we can grab, set the Keller. Just like this. So let's actually play. I'm gonna get rid of my hands. I don't like the hands on my player. Visible, no. There we go. So see, it's doing a scanning system. Partly just getting a good shot for the thumbnail. It's a nice little scan, and then when we go through it, let's see, nothing. Let's see what's going on. Scanner, set Keller, alarm Keller, mats. Do those get added to the mats? Laser mats, add unique. Laser mats, Keller. Save. Let's just check this to see if these overlaps are working at all. Collision, overlap all. Let's add a print scan here to see if it's our material or if it's alarm. Okay, it looks like something's wrong with our overlap. Overlap all dynamic, maybe? Let's add in a print scan here. Thing. Okay. Let's check our collision. Maybe we forgot to set up the collision. Collision right here. I don't see any collision. So there must be something wrong there. Oh, we just have the normal ones. That would do it. Now that we add in the actual collision one. There you go. Now you can see the collision. Okay. There we go. See how it turns red? Oh, one of them is rotating. I bet you I just put in the wrong. Let's see, side. Oh, this up here. Because this needs to be set here. Set. And then like this. Since this was just set to 0, so it was. Let's check it. There you go. They're maintaining their orientation. And then if it hits us, turns red, or kind of that pink color in our case. And things are alerted. That's all I have for this one. I just wanted to show this system. It was something someone was asking about. So if you do have any questions or things you want to ask about, feel free to jump in the Discord. I really do like feedback. I like making videos and answering questions about things that people are actually wanting to know. Sometimes it can be hard to know what people are still trying to figure out versus what is pretty common knowledge. So unless y'all have any questions, catch you later.